And we now have live with us former Undersecretary of the Department of the Interior and Local Government, Rico Puno. Good evening. You would like to be referred to as former Secretary?
Yes.
Yes, of course you are. First questions are on the allegations that you went to the late Secretary Robredo's condominium to secure certain documents. You said that you went there on the orders of President Aquino. Just to take a step back, help us understand the usual protocol or standard operating procedure if a public official, in this case it's a cabinet official, would go missing or perhaps passes away. Is there an automatic mechanism that that kicks in wherein the department will already know that they need to secure all sensitive documents in all probable locations? On a personal note, were you surprised that it had to come from the president to call you personally to ask you to secure Secretary Robredo's sensitive documents?
I think that's a standard operating procedure that there should be a lockdown of all the offices whenever, especially a cabinet secretary has gone missing. No? The order of the president was called. The president himself called me when I was about to board the plane, and he told me that there should be secure all valuable documents and the private offices of the late secretary.
At any point during that time, during that instance, did you feel that the president was particularly interested in any specific documents?
No, I don't think so. He just said that there are several sensitive documents in the office of the secretary at the time that it should be secured.
And he did not let on about what these sensitive documents might be?
No, he did not specify which documents because I do not have any access before there and I do not know where to look. So we just have to lock down all the offices of the secretary.
And at any moment during that time, you never felt that anything was peculiar about the president having to call you
no, he always calls me and everything that if there is something confidential, especially in matters of security.
All right. Your chronology has been widely reported on already. What perhaps cannot be explained by the chronology is the parallel efforts of Justice Secretary Laila de Lima to, on her own, also secure these documents in the same location in that condominium. And it seems that she had more of the blessings, and perhaps Secretary Robredo's widow, Leni Robredo, even sought her help. How does that make you feel that there were parallel efforts to yours?
I don't think it was more, it's not a parallel effort. I thought it was just because she was with the Presidential Security Group at the time when she arrived. And it was just to check and to double check. And in fact, when she was at the late secretary's office in the Francisco Gold, he even locked down some of the other offices, especially of the lawyers and the chief of staff of the late secretary.
All right. And do we have any confirmation as to who sent Secretary Laila de Lima to the condominium? Do we know who issued
I have
the
no
order?
idea. I assume that it was from the president because she was with the Presidential Security Group at the time.
All right. Tell us more about the timeline then. You pointed at the media as the source of these quote-unquote allegations that the word raid was used, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you maintain that these reports are unverified? What part of these reports would you consider verifiable at this point? Take us to the storyline again.
It's just that after we have done the total lockdown and secured most of the documents in the offices of the late secretary and plus the documents in his condominium, there were already allegations that we have ransacked some of the offices and we have raided the house of the condominium unit of the late secretary. So I just sat and just kept quiet. That I knew that these are all fabrications. So when I waited for the official statement of the president that he ordered me to do all of these things, and And Superintendent Tanseco came out in the dailies also and was interviewed that there was no lockdown, there was no ransacking or raiding of the places. And this was confirmed by the other security officers who were with us and in almost all of the other offices of the late secretary. You must remember, Nancy, that most of the people that were used in order to secure and lock down the offices of the late secretary were all under his office.
All right.
Which is under
Let's be specific. Let's try to get more familiar with the persons who actually accompanied you to Secretary Robredo's condominium. If you mentioned already, of course, we know that Superintendent Oliver Tanseco was one of them. Mm-hmm. Take us through the names of the persons who were with you and who were closer to you and closer to the late Secretary Robredo.
No, it was the only person that was closer to me was my aide, Chief Inspector Tugonon. And the other person that were assigned by the Chief PNP to help in securing also was Senior Superintendent Joel Pagdirao, who is the Deputy Director of the Central Police District. And then there is also the Deputy for Operations then for the Southern Police District, which was run by Chief Superintendent Stepona at the time, in order to augment the officers that were under the late secretary's office.
As far as you can tell us, what did you find of interest there?
I didn't find anything interesting. Our job was to we took pictures so we will know that this is the state of the office that we came and this is the state of the office that we are after we have locked down. We had no interest, but our interest there was to secure and completely lock down the office. So we sealed most of the cabinets within the secretary, most of the entrance and exits going to the office of the secretary.
How much can you tell us about allegations that before Secretary Robredo's death, he was in the midst of investigations into certain persons, and that would include yourself?
I have no knowledge of any investigation that he was conducting, whether to myself or to other persons.
Superintendent Oliver Tanseco was the one also who called your attention to the fact that there were other documents outside of the White House, in Camp Trame offices, in the late Secretary Robredo's condominium that needed to be secured. Did you get a sense that he was referring to any specific documents of any specific sensitive nature? You know,
being the part of the aid and the security of the former secretary, of the late secretary, he knew that some of the documents were being brought to his residence. And while we were at the Francisco Gold office, he mentioned that there are also some documents inside the condominium unit. And my orders were to secure all documents. So we have to go to the residence or to the condominium unit of the late secretary. And when we arrived there, I even told everybody that any place that we go, that we are going to secure, you have to log down all your names. And so I, being the head of this team, I have to write my own name also. And specifically tell everybody who have been assigned there to secure that place. And it was only, I would like to note that it was only Superintendent Tanseco who went up and talked to the person inside the condominium unit. And he just gave the instruction that nothing will be taken out of this unit, especially the documents, and nothing will be repaired, nothing will be delivered, or if there is any person who wants to gain entry into the condominium unit, we have assigned police officers downstairs.
Okay. To put a closure to the timeline, I'm not saying you need to end your timeline now, but from the time, of course, that the President issued the order for you to secure the documents, all the events had transpired. Of course, the question on our minds is, did you debrief the President on what you found and what were his reactions and what were the key elements of your report to him after you had secured these premises?
The order was just do a complete lockdown of the office, seal all the entrances and exits. and that be assured that I assured him that no documents were taken out, copied, or destroyed. So that is what we did. We even secured most of the photocopiers and the shredding machines.
To your knowledge, what then will be the fate of all these documents that have been, the premises have been locked down, the documents secured? What will be the fate of all these documents that have been secured?
Well, it was part of the official day-to-day activity of the department, whether it's in the office of the secretary or to the other offices that needs to be evaluated.
You mentioned in your official statement today that talking about certain things would be violating the confidential nature of your duties and may expose people. This was when, of course, before you resigned, it may expose people to danger or jeopardize critical operations. Who might these people be, and what might these critical operations
You know,
be?
when you are part of the security, when you handle security, it is not nice to be broadcasting all your plans and all the directions where you're going to, because it might jeopardize the security of the people that will be involved there. In fact, if there is going to be a raid, you do not go to the press and tell them that there's going to be a raid in this place.
Okay. Everything that you have said to the media that you're telling me now implies that everything you had done was just according to the president's order and above board, and there is nothing to hide. What then does this tell you? Is there an unseen hand that is creating a story or a situation that puts you in a very malicious light? For example, let's bring it up, right? The Balay faction, do you think this has anything to do
Nancy,
with how you're being portrayed in the public?
I do not have any political plans. I am not a politician. I am just here to help the president and do the assigned task that is given to me. I have no ambition to be the next secretary also, or to be assigned to another position that would be higher than what I was given. So I'm happy with what I have done. I am happy that I have helped serve the president and probably help in protecting our countrymen.
So you honestly believe, as you've seen, social media and some of the traditional media have cranked up their best efforts to vilify you both verbally and visually. You're saying this is just a collective groundswell of response from the public, and that this was not brought on or triggered by someone who had some ulterior motive against you?
Obviously, it's coming from another group, from a small group.
And who might that be?
I do not know. But obviously also that they wanted me out of the department. And I think because of the orders coming from the president, and then they might resent that I would be directly reporting to the president, but that's not true. I also report directly to the secretary and to the president at the same time.
All right, Senator Miriam Santiago already said she would call cabinet officials to help shed light on the issue. You were unclear about attending future Senate probe. Will you attend if invited? You already said you're on vacation. That sort of gives us an idea of your willingness to attend.
No, but if I receive the invitation, why not?
What do you foresee will be asked of you in such a probe?
I do not know. I cannot imagine what questions will be asked in the Senate.
All right. Let's go a little bit to your personal relationships. First, with the late Secretary Robredo. There was an unusual arrangement within the DILG where the late Secretary Robredo was in charge of local governments. You were in charge of the police. There was sort of a dichotomy of functions there. How would you describe your relationship with the late Secretary Robredo?
No, actually, that is the in charge of the police is different. You know, as an undersecretary and the secretary himself as the chairman of the NAPOLCOM completely oversees the police. I help out in the overseeing of the police. The operational requirements and the operational duties of the police force is with the Chief of the Philippine National Police. most of the functions, administrative functions, and the policies is done through the NAPOLCOM. The secretary is the chairman of the NAPOLCOM. I, as an undersecretary for peace and order, also helps out with the secretary in all the uniformed personnel. That would include the police, the fire, and the jail personnel.
All right. Let's bring it back to my original question, please, about if you could describe your personal relationship with the late Secretary Robredo. How would you describe it?
Well, it's very cordial, and I give the reports to him. Everything that has to be done and to be known to him, especially some operational matters, he has to be informed.
Did you have a close working relationship?
Yes.
Was it a daily
interaction? The functions of the secretary would require him almost every day out of the office because he had several functions. Besides being the secretary as a whole, the administrative function, there is the local government functions also, and plus the urban poor function. That is why, and plus the peace and order. And we only have 2 undersecretaries under his office. He was suggesting that we should have the 3rd undersecretary, because of the several functions, that brings him out almost always out of the office.
All right. Would you describe your secretary and undersecretary relationship to be such that you would always be on the phone with each other, perhaps, informing each other of updates?
You know, the way he manages it's just he gives out the orders, and we will do whatever we can and then give the reports to him.
Okay, let's talk about that arms deal, which has been reported to have been the trigger of perhaps that investigation into your alleged activities, right? Malacanang already says you would not have been involved, as you do not have oversight into these purchases. You explained that earlier. But how would you explain reports that you did go to Israel? Let us know, please, who was with you there, and what was the purpose?
The trip to Israel is a private, it's a vacation for my family. I was with my wife, my 2 children, and 4 of my nephews and nieces. We were 8 all in all together in the package. All we wanted was the first stop was Dubai, then to Rome, and then we went to Israel. And we just wanted to see Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and swim at the Dead Sea. And
yes.
But surprisingly, when we were about to board, when we boarded the plane to Rome, I saw General Santiago, who recently retired. Oh, you're enjoying your vacation. Are you on vacation also? Yes. I had an invitation with the Israeli weapons manufacturer. Okay. So for sure, you're going to be treated in the range or to shoot some firearms. Being a gun enthusiast, I suggested to him that maybe you can ask us to join you also, so that we can shoot some rounds with the Israelis.
All right. Interestingly enough, there are reports that the lone bidder in one of the arms procurement biddings, Ray Espinelli of R.S. Spinelli, was in Israel at the exact same time. How would you describe?
I think they were together
with General Santiago.
Yes.
So
but
you're saying that
I didn't see them I didn't see Mr. Spinelli in the plane.
So that it was highly coincidental that Mr. Espinelli was there as well. Because reports, if certain reports were being slanted purposely, it would appear that the presence of Ray Espinelli there immediately led to the fact that, fast forward to a short time after, he is the lone bidder. And that there are also reports, and if you could shed light on this, please.
You know, Nancy, I would like to explain that there were, when it comes to the firearms bidding, there were 4 biddings. One bidding was for the pistols. The other one was for the light machine gun. And the other one was for the assault rifle. And the other one was overseen by the PSDBM. The first 3 biddings was done by the PNP Bids and Awards Committee. The other one was done by the DBM, in which we do not have control of. In all 4 biddings, Spinelli gave the lowest price. But in all 4 biddings, Spinelli was disqualified. In the first 3 biddings that was managed by the PNP back, it was Spinelli was disqualified because of a failure to submit a certain document, which is very vital for you to join the bidding.
So they were disqualified on a technicality, not on the quality of the actual ammunition that they were
No,
planning to supply.
this is a firearm, not the ammunition.
The firearm.
On the bidding with the PSDBM, wherein it was a totally different specification, but they submitted the same type of firearm, and the requirements there was that they went up to the testing stage. Unfortunately, after a few thousand rounds, the gun failed. I think it's the firing pin broke, which is a major, so they were disqualified also.
All right, you've been described, of course, coming into the job at the DILG as a former guns and ammunitions dealer. Help us to understand how that description should not raise any red flags with you at the helm of the Peace and Order sub-department of the DILG.
You know, one of the orders of the President was for us to, for me, to take care of the purchases, especially for the PNP, with regards to the protection, self-protection, and the firearms requirement. And nobody wanted to join the Bids and Awards Committee because they were all scared that they would be, because most of the members of the former BAC have been placed in the ombudsman, and some of them were being submitted already. So they did not want to be part of the Bids and Awards Committee. But I told them, we have a mandate to protect also and to provide the necessary equipment that will be used by our police force. And this is the only way that we could help also protect our police officers by giving them the right product at the right price and the best quality.
Can you confirm reports that President Aquino himself Googled prices of firearms and realized that the prices we were talking about in all these biddings were way off the mark? And was he annoyed?
Yes, but when he explained it to him, it was more on when you do when you get prices, but there is the peculiarity of adding taxes. You know, it's 15% tax for the cost, insurance, and freight, plus the 12% VAT, plus the cost of money in you know, the pistol alone, the surety bond for that, the cash bond for that is about 24 million. And
so you are confirming that the President indeed had Googled these prices to get a personal confirmation?
We were together, and we told him that actually there is I got a better price already.
I asked that to put things in context, because my next question is to ask you if there are any truth, if there is any truth to reports that the President and yourself had already reached a mutual decision for you to resign even before the death of the late Secretary Robredo, on the basis of that discovery that prices were off the mark.
No, it is for another reason.
Could you perhaps tell us what that reason is?
No, it was a discussion between us, and the position was he had this dilemma on the next position, on a position that needs to be changed. So
he was resignation from the DILG would have paved the way for you to have been moved to another department.
No, but he said if you still wanted to work, you could be assigned to another department.
Were you unhappy as Usec of the DILG?
No, we always serve at the pleasure of the President. My intention to work with the President is just to help him and see to it that our goals during the campaign would be realized. And I think I was able to help and make a small dent that and I could talk to my grandchildren that I was able to help the president.
Okay. Walk us through your relationship with President Aquino. Let's talk about your relationship with him before you were appointed as Usec of the DILG, during your stint at the DILG, and now that you have resigned.
You know, when President Cory Aquino was no longer president, he was in Tarlac. They all went to Tarlac, and he was helping manage the hacienda. And I was also in Tarlac attending my farm. And when he ran for Congress, I helped. I was with him when he went around all the barangays in his district. That was for 3 terms. And then when he ran for the Senate, it was just us also. And then when he ran for the presidency, we were also together.
How will you describe the frequency of your interaction or seeing the president before you were appointed?
No, we were mostly together, and then we would always chat, and then say, this is what we will do if ever I will be elected. At that time, it was just a Congress. He was just congressman, and then he was senator, and then he was thinking of maybe he would move down to another office, not run as president, but you know, that time when he ran for president was different.
Did you maintain this kind of relationship during your stint at the DILG? Would you speak as often, or perhaps you spoke even more often?
No, not necessarily, but because he had other things to do, more important things rather than my office. So we would see each other not very often, because now it was really there were several tasks that he tells me that, but we see each other in the firing range, and that is
that
the
would
time
be a regular thing. How often would you
Yes.
go to the firing range?
Mostly every Saturday.
All right. And now that you have resigned, and in the immediate days leading up to the resignation, has there been any strain whatsoever, any awkwardness between you and the president? How would you describe your relationship now?
We would see each other more often, and we will be partners we would be more shooting buddies now, because I will be more at the range, and we will shoot together. And
when was the last time you spoke with the president, and what did he tell you?
Yesterday.
Did you speak? Yes.
Yesterday.
What were his words to you?
Well, it's just that okay, we'll sign, and probably if you still want to work for the government, we'll try to look for a nice, quiet job for you.
And you're open to that?
Yes.
All right. Outside of public service, what are your immediate plans post-resignation?
I'll go back to farming.
Not to guns and ammunition dealing? You don't want to do that anymore?
No, I will, you know, I have this project that in my farm I will put up a firing range also. And with the firing range, I would have the police force we train there, because this is not just an ordinary firing range. These are the firing ranges that I saw in the States and in Singapore, wherein my dream was also to have one of those. And so this is one way of giving up something for our police. I will help train them and give them the facilities.
All right. We appreciate that you came on the show. We talked about hard facts, but also about your personal relationships. Let me just put closure to this. Something perhaps that I wanted to ask you much earlier. According to the timeline, did the late Secretary Robredo's widow, Attorney Lenny Robredo, did she know that you were going to the condominium when you went? Did you ask her permission?
No, I did not. But we were always in touch with the Chief of Staff.
It never occurred to you
Colonel
that...
Tanseco was always contacting Attorney Rances of all our moves. You know, when I arrived that evening, I saw them at the White House, at the residence of the Chief PNP. Some of the Joan de la Cruz, the personal secretary of the secretary, was there. And when the president called that we are going to secure and seal the offices, she was there also.
So it was
she
never...
knew that we were coming also.
All right, but it was never anyone's instinct to go to the widow and inform her that we are going to your late husband's condominium to secure some out of courtesy, perhaps, or just instinct?
No, first of all, I didn't know the number on where to reach the Mrs. Robredo. Secondly, we were always in touch with the staff. Colonel Tanseco is a member of his staff. And he was reporting, I think, to the Chief of Staff also of the Secretary.
All right. On that note, former Undersecretary for Peace and Order of the DILG, Mr. Rico Puno, thanks for joining us on Solar Nightly News.
Welcome.
Thank you. A Movie and Television Review and Classification Board Chair Grace Paula Manzares may run under the Liberal Party in the 2013 elections. More when we return. This is Solar Nightly News. Stay tuned.